Our first guest of the new season is new Maryland Athletic Director Jim Smith. Jim, thank you so much for coming on today.
Great to be here, guys. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So it's been a little over a month now since the MLB All-Star Game, since you've gotten to College Park. What has this month been like for you? I've seen you going around talking to the teams. You were at the soccer game the other night. What's this month been like?
It's been pretty nonstop. I think it's going to be like that probably forever. But it's been great. I mean, you got to get out and see people, meet them where they are, and get out and cover as much ground as possible. And we have a big program. We've got a lot of great coaches and student athletes, and you want them all to feel the love from the athletic department. And it starts with me getting out there and letting them know that.
And you've said a couple times now since being named the new athletic director, you want to build Maryland into the best athletic program in the country in the next 5 to 10 years. What does that vision look like for you?
Yeah, so it's about creating a culture, right? And it's about creating a championship culture where the expectation is that we come to work every day to be champions. And that doesn't mean you win championships all the time, but that does come with the mindset of, hey, we're going to be the best. And how do we, how can we be the best? And so to be the best, it helps to have been in a few really good organizations, but it also helps to, to understand the DNA of it, and that makes sure you have the right people that are part of that.
Jim, you said that when you took the job, it wasn't necessarily something you had pictured, but when Maryland called you, they didn't pitch it like a typical athletic director. It was more along the lines of, this was be running a professional sports team. I want to ask you, what did they say in the interviews? What was the hiring process like that made you kind of come up with that analogy? What was Pines and the committee telling you that really kind of convinced you to take the job and made you think that it was more along the lines of a GM versus what, a typical AD did in the past?
Yeah. So Sam, I think I've also mentioned a couple of times that, hey, 5 years ago, I'm not even a candidate for this job, right? I mean, it's been on, this has been a traditional job. You're on a college campus all the way through, and you kind of grow through the ranks. And so when I got the call from the search firm, and I heard about, there's this university that's really thinking about the position differently. I think I've said this before. I chuckled to myself and said, I've heard this before. I say, can you send me the job description? And they said, the search firm said, yeah. And they told me it was Maryland. And I said, okay, great. And then I read the job description, and when you really read it, it had a number of the factors that are important for a traditional athletic director, but it read far more like that of a president of a pro sports team. And, where, building culture and building revenue streams and thinking long-term for where the industry is going, and being flexible and being able to change rapidly as an environment changes. Those are all things that happen pretty much every day in a pro sports world, but traditionally hadn't happened in a college sport. So I thought, the job description says what they're saying. They're looking for, a different set of experiences. So I said, I'm interested. And then I went to I had my interviews, and, there were a number of different people throughout the process, all who had, good questions. And, the majority of them focused on non-traditional athletic director questions about the future, and about NIL, and about rev share, and about player management and contracts, and salary caps. And all of a sudden you're like, wow, this is this is different. And and then it came down to really some time with the president, and how committed is he to collegiate athletics. And he's very committed to collegiate athletics. He's also created an incredible academic institution. You all should be incredibly proud and fortunate to be at the University of Maryland. This is a really, really, really good public school. And that was a piece I didn't even know until I started doing the research. And so that's a huge advantage for anyone in the sports space, the collegiate athletic space, to have a very compelling collegiate athlete scholarship, school experience combined with hopefully an incredible competitive environment.
Why do you think specifically the University of Maryland wanted to pivot in your direction for an athletic director to take a more professional approach as opposed to maybe one solely focused on what's happening on the field?
I think they'd seen, kind of where the industry is going, and hey, why not give it a shot with someone who might have some different experiences? So it's probably a better question for the committee than it is for me. But I just generally reading the description, it was, hey, we know what the traditional looks like. What is the I don't even say non-traditional because I don't really believe I'm a non-traditional candidate. But what is a different focus in the skill set when you're looking for your next athletic director?
In terms of something you've talked a lot about is the budget, and just obviously, Maryland's athletic budget hasn't been great. Last year, the overall department finished just under $7 million in the negative. The past 3 years combined, it's over $15 million in a deficit. It's one thing to say, oh, we're going to reshape the budget and make this, so that we're making money, hopefully. But how are you actually planning to implement changes that will reshape kind of the department's finances?
Yeah, so I think the key to reshaping finances is in growing revenue, right? And I'm 4 weeks into the job and I've got some ideas, so I'm not sure I've got this mapped out plan for you that's going to say, hey, we're going to be profitable by X. But I do have some ideas, and by hiring Joe LeBoux to come in and partner. I mean, a Terp, to bring a Terp alum back who's got chief revenue officer experience at the the highest level and for successful organizations. I think we can definitely start to think about the revenue opportunities that are going to exist that haven't existed in the past. There's a number of spaces I don't think we've gotten into in affinity marketing that I think could be really valuable for the program. I think that there's some of the professional sports experience in dynamic pricing that can definitely help us going forward. Then we'll find additional scholarship money. All these things add up at the end of the day, and we'll hopefully turn the negative into a break even.
What was, I guess, kind of your general perspective? You mentioned you didn't quite know about the strong academics, but you had worked in the Big Ten at Ohio State. What were your kind of general perspectives on Maryland before you actually got here?
Yeah, no, just a great. So in order to be in the Big Ten, you have to be a really good school. I mean, when you look at it across the board, you got to be strong in something. And, in many cases, you're strong in many things. You're the land grant, you're the flagship. Those are all incredibly important, both from an academic standpoint as well as an athletic standpoint. And you're in the Big Ten, which, I know for some folks, for some alums who've been here a long time, they think back to the ACC days, and that was a great era at that time. But I don't think there's any other conference you'd want to be in the country right now than the Big Ten. So when I use this line from Hamilton, when you're in the room where it happens, you're in a good place, and the Big Ten is where it happens. And I think it makes the other conferences a little jealous at times, or a little they might want to take some shots at the Big Ten. But the reality is these are 18 major universities, major academic universities, major athletic universities. And when you're one of those 18, you're in a pretty special place.
And since you've gotten here, you've been pretty busy so far. You've extended a couple coaches in your first few weeks on campus. What gave you that confidence to give out those extensions as one of your first moves? And then also, what are you looking for in a coach?
So great there. So Michael, that's a very fair question. It gives me an opportunity to thank a lot of the people that were here before me, right? That they started that process. We have really good sports administrators that were supportive of the extension for the coaches. And after meeting with the coaches, I certainly understand why it was the right time to extend them. So a lot of credit goes to some folks, to some of our sport administrators, and then some folks who've moved on to other roles, because they were really instrumental in getting those done and putting us in the right position to get that done. And then as far as a coach, look, we're really fortunate here to have all our coaches are really good. They're really good because they've been successful while they've been here. They want to be at Maryland. This isn't a stepping stone to somewhere else. And I think that's really important, is to have the continuity and to build a program where both student athletes and coaches want to be at that school. And, that's what's been happening before I got here. And that's what I hope continues to happen through my time here.
Before we get back to the show, a quick word from our sponsor. The Catalyst to the Game is brought to you by Catalyst Hot Dogs. Catalyst brought the Jersey Dog to the DMV, featuring premium dry-aged Black Angus all-beef hot dogs made in Maryland, served with handmade toppings including hot onions, relish, and their signature chili sauce. And don't miss their original garlic knot dogs. Those sound pretty good. Catalyst always offers vegan dogs as well as gluten-free buns because Catalyst has food for everyone. Find them in SAQ Stadium in Section 14 and the Xfinity Center in Section 210. Tell the people a hot dog is a sandwich.
Speaking of coaches, Mike Loxley, obviously the largest earner at this school, probably the coach under the most scrutiny right now. He enters year 7 with a pretty porous overall record across his time. Had some success there in the middle, and you have a football background from working at Ohio State. Tell me a little bit about the conversations you and Loxley have had, and what are you looking for from the football program to really give you confidence, moving forward?
Well, I already have the confidence. I believe in Coach Locks. I think he's done a really good job. No one shied away from, hey, last year wasn't a very good year. That was last year. And we're on to this year, and we're on to building a program that can be really successful. I think you also have to realize you have to give coaches the resources to be successful. That's what I said at my opening press conference. It's really hard to hold someone accountable if you're not going to provide the resources to compete at the highest level. And that's on me now going forward. The resource piece has got to come from us in the department. And there's got to be a belief that you can compete at the high level. And if you have the belief you can compete at the high level, you have to have the resources in order to match that. And that's going to be the goal going forward.
What would you define as success for the football program this season and then moving forward?
Yeah, so I use you're going to hate my answer, but it's the reality. Go 1-0. We play Saturday, success is 1-0. And then we'll play the next Saturday and success will be 1-0. And when we don't have success, we got to look at why, and are we going to be successful long term? But this is a 1-0 game. I was at the soccer match last night at Georgetown. And it was a great match, and we got to 1-0. And now we're on to another great match on Friday. It's like that with every sport. It's not just football. You got to have high expectations. I know that every coach, that's the great thing about being at Maryland. Every coach here has high expectations for themselves and their teams. And, now it's our job to help them achieve those really high expectations.
Speaking of Coach Loxley, you're entering a situation now where just the past spring, you had a basketball coach call in for more resources while the football coach was saying he wished all that stuff was kept behind closed doors. As an athletic director with the Rev Share, how are you making sure that each coach gets their piece of the pie while also maintaining everybody's happy and everybody's okay with that piece of the pie they're getting?
Yeah, so happy's it can't be the number one objective because you're never going to get there. So you got to be fair and you got to be honest. And you just have to tell people, hey, this is where I believe the program is. This is how we're going to allocate out Rev Share, and this is our path going forward. And here are all the other things that I think we're going to be able to do as we move forward. The Rev Share was done prior to me getting here. It's in good shape. I think our teams are going to be very competitive as we go forward. But that doesn't mean the quest to get additional resources has ended just because we have Rev Share now.
Speaking of Rev Share, there's a lot of concern, I think, amongst college athletics that non-revenue sports, Olympic sports in particular, are going to take a hit from the Rev Share and what the future of those sports look like. Maryland, obviously, in a lot of those sports has a ton of storied success. You mentioned men's soccer, field hockey, women's lacrosse come to mind as really successful programs. Are you committed to making sure that those programs are, continue to thrive? And how are you going to go about managing resources so that obviously the bigger, more revenue generating sports have the resources while also providing support to, the non-rev sports that have shown more historical success per se?
Yeah. So first part of the question is really easy. 100% supportive of all our sports here and figuring out the path forward for every one of them. When you hear about schools thinking that they're going to cut sports because of rev share, not at Maryland. So that's not going to happen. Not during my time here. And so that's the first part. And then the allocation of resources. When I talk about resources in general, I'm talking about them broadly, not for football, not for basketball, broadly for everyone. And there's a big difference between wants and needs, right? Needs are what we have to focus on. Wants are, additions that, someone might like, but aren't going to make a difference in the overall outcome of the student athlete experience, right? So we have to balance both of those things, and we really have to focus on needs first.
I want to, we talk a lot about Maryland athletics, but I feel like people deserve to get to know Jim Smith a bit. Jim, you come from a bull riding background. We at Under the Shell love some weird stories. Tell us the craziest bull riding experience you had. I know you were a general manager, but I'm sure you were in they call it a ring. What's the term for it?
It's an arena. I mean, these are, they're professional bull riding is drawing anywhere from 12 to 17,000 seats. Maybe we'll have an event here at Xfinity Center. It's a different sport. I knew nothing about it before I got into it and had an ownership interest. I'm not the general manager anymore. This job is a full-time, as you've seen, this job is a full-time job. There's no way to do anything else. But there's a number of really incredible stories, but these are, we talk about Fear of the Turtle or Fearlessly Forward. These guys don't have any fear. It's a 1,700-pound animal that they're going to try and ride for 8 seconds and unpredictably. It's not running straight. It is intended to buck you off. So the very first time I stood above the chute and saw this animal and the rider, I was like, this is the craziest thing I've ever seen. It's nuts. And, and these guys are fearless and they're incredible athletes. They are the fittest athletes, fit like 0% body fat. It's an unbelievable core and arm strength. So anyway, there's a kind of a crazy
How much
story
did it take to get Jim Smith on a bull at Xfinity?
Not going to happen. Not. I don't think not going to happen because I don't know that I survive it.
You also spent some time with the was it WWF then or WWE?
It was F then.
Okay.
It's E now. Yeah.
What was that like? Were you working with Mr. McMahon a lot with the company?
I was. It was early on in his. It was early in the 90s, so it was a different WWF WWE at that time. It was a business that was struggling at the time. Learned an incredible amount about the corporate world, about entertainment. About arena management, about arena booking. There's so many pieces throughout my career that I've been just fortunate to experience, including having promoted WrestleMania in Hartford. So it was pretty cool to be able to have done that.
I'll bring it back to Maryland real quick, and then we're going to get to know you as we end the show. But back on the actual campus in Maryland, I know one of the goals of the previous athletic director was in terms of building a lot of new facilities, and a lot of those they're in progress. But is that a similar goal you have in mind to update some of the Maryland facilities, or is that something you think?
Yeah, no, I think they did a great. I think it's a great question, and I think Damon and Colleen and Brian did a really good job, kind of mapping out a plan, and it's a good plan. And so I'm going to hope to continue, executing the plan on facilities. When you see the basketball performance center, it's incredible, right? Our Jones Hill field house, incredible, right? And so now let's see where else we can continue putting Maryland in position to have incredible facilities. The field hockey and lacrosse, women's lacrosse, awesome, right? So these are things other people other schools would kill to have, and we're very fortunate to have it. And so as we can build those things over the right period of time and fundraise for them, then and we're going to continue that process.
Now in the era of RevShare and NIL, how important do you think it is to have those updated facilities versus just having the resources to pay back the players?
Well, it's a good question, and I think it'll depend on the sport and the coach that you're talking to, right? And I think they're important. Are they more important for soccer than they might be for another sport? Yeah. So I think it really depends on the sport and what we're trying to accomplish with that sport. So it's not a one size fits all answer on that one.
All right, Jim. Well, we've gotten to know a lot about the Terps and stuff, but we're going to hit you with some rapid fire questions here about who you are, and we're going to get to know Jim Smith a little bit. So you ready?
Ready.
All right. Are you putting Old Bay on everything or nothing?
Everything.
Crabs or lobsters?
I'm sorry, lobster.
Favorite movie that you can quote from start to finish?
Oh, I don't know about start to finish, but Caddyshack.
Great movie. What's the best uniform combo you've seen Maryland wear? Like, what's your favorite uniform they have?
I don't know. I haven't seen all the football yet, so it wouldn't be fair to say. But what I love about our uniforms is the flag trim on sleeves or shorts. I love it. I think it's awesome.
Best stadium across any sport that you've been to?
Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Come on, that was an easy one.
I like it. What's your favorite sport to watch on television?
Probably whatever's on. Mm-hmm. If everything is on at once, my favorite sport.
Not bull riding?
It could be. If it's on, I'm watching it. Geez, that's a good question. I'm running through them all. Like, which is my favorite? I like them all. I don't know that I got one. I think I got to leave it open. I like it all. Whatever's on.
What's your biggest pet peeve in athletics? Like something somebody says or does that just kind of irks you?
People with big egos drive me crazy.
What about in terms of you had to pick a favorite meal that you want to try in Maryland? Is there anything that stands out?
I got to get the crabs. I got to get somebody's got to help me with the hammer.
I'm sure we can get one of our listeners to help you out with that. If you weren't in athletics, what type of career would you want?
Well, so wrestling doesn't count. Bull riding, I guess those are sports. I probably would be now. If you ask me, this is a good question, so I got to answer it for today because it's where I am today. I probably want to be a teacher.
I love that. And then lastly, the first person that comes to mind when you think of Maryland athletics, like the biggest Terp legend or somebody that kind of pops into your head.
So it's first in mind, and it's because I've had the opportunity to spend a fair amount of time with him, and he might have an Ohio State connection as Gary Williams.
So there you go.
Well, one last question to round this off, Jim. Looking 5 years down the road, University of Maryland athletics, how are you measuring success, and what would define success in that time stretch for you?
So I'd say that all our sports are competing at a really high level. That we've won some national championships in sports. I'm not going to pick specific sports because, as I said, winning championships is really hard. But that everybody, and when I say everybody, you three, everybody listening, everybody at this school believes Maryland can win championships every year. And if in 5 years everybody in this state is believing, then we're on our way to something really special.
Well, that's all we got for you today. Jim, thank you so much for taking the time to be our first guest of the new season of Under the Shell, and good luck with the rest of the start of your career here.
Great. Thanks, guys, and look forward to seeing you all at games.